Good everyone, welcome to today's video. Today we have part 6 of the showcase series requested by It's Rainy Boy, and today we have China and Italy both in one, because as you can see by China, I don't have much. So before we begin with China, I am going to point out what vehicles are potentially going to be coming to the collection very soon. Well, I say very soon, eventually. In terms of Chinese Air, I only want the Key 84, and for Chinese Army, there's literally nothing. Like, I've got the one vehicle I wanted, and that didn't cost me a penny. There really isn't much for China in terms of premiums that I want, but the Key 84 is mainly the one I wanted. When we come to Italy, which by the way, there's a timestamp in the description below if you want to skip to that, um, do feel free to. Um, I'll mention when we get to starting Italy what vehicles are going to be coming into the collection from Italy. So starting us off with the Hawk 3, this is a plane that is very well respected in both my collection and, well, the videos on these things actually get quite a bit of views from what I've noticed. Because people seem to be wanting to buy these more, which I'm really happy for. And it's certainly a biplane that just really kicks some butt. I mean, 4 100-pound bombs and a 500-pound bomb, plus its maneuverability at 1.3. If I'm playing low tier channel with my subs, I'm dragging this thing out. That's for definite. Next up, we have the H81A2. This is a plane that not only means a lot to me in terms of its historical relevance, but it also means a lot to me because of a subscriber. I'll mention that part in a moment. I love my P40s, as you probably know, and that's what this is. This is just pretty much a P40B. And when this thing first came out, I was like, the Flying Tigers P40, that is a godsend. I want that. But I looked at the price, and if you don't know me, I'm a bit of a cheapskate, and I was gonna wait a little bit before, because obviously I wasn't on I didn't really have any like job or anything like that, so I couldn't really like I could afford to pay for this plane, but that's the thing, like I had to think about it. But then out of the blue, when I'd not long started doing my channel, Moxie comes in, one of my subscribers, one of my longest term subscribers, and says to me, well, I've got a spare pack. Do you want it? And I was like, you really don't have to, mate, but it's really down to you. And before I don't even think he read that part, he gifted me the plane, and I've had it ever since. I've had this thing for about 2 years now. And even though I don't take it out much, this is definitely a plane that means a lot to me because of how much Moxie's been here. He's helped the channel so much, and he gifted me this plane, just out of the kindness of his own heart. And it was certainly something that just meant a lot to me. And obviously, I don't know if you can still get this plane. I think they've taken it off sale. I may be wrong about that. I know they brought it back briefly for a sale, but I really don't know. Because obviously I own the plane, it's not removed for me. I'm not sure. But if you can get this thing, I definitely would, especially if you're on a budget. Next up is a plane that the old hanger hobbit absolutely despises. If you ever want to piss him off, just ask for this thing. This is the Kai 45 High slash Tie. This is a plane that is, well, I got this in War Bonds, and I was certainly looking forward to it because I knew my ping would make this thing work to some extent. And when I saw Harry's video on it, I was completely dead with laughter because of how funny it was. And poor old Harry, I mean, like for what he does for his channel, like he puts himself through some shit for his subscribers. I mean, he plays this thing on like 200 ping, and he does stuff like the independent for his subscribers. And like Jesus Christ, but watching his video just made me think, what if I have it on my ping? What can this thing do on my ping that it can't do on Harry's ping? And sure enough, it ended up working for me. And even though I didn't give it an amazing review, I still enjoyed it. But of course, for just 150G more, there is a premium which completely beats this thing senseless. And that's the A6M2. No real introduction needed here, it's a zero. It's pretty common for, well, in fact, I've already mentioned this in the US Premium Zero. I love Zeros. They're just planes that you don't typically see flown by experienced pilots. They tend to just be flown by people who just think, herp a derp a derp, I'm just going to turn fight. And whilst, yes, that's the main principle, it's just satisfying to reversal someone in a zero because they think they're behind you and they can easily kill you, but you end up turning the tables. And that's just one thing that I really enjoy about it because you don't really see experienced pilots in zeros anymore. And as a result, it's just something that I just like about it. Moving on to the one Chinese tank I have. This is the T-26 number 531. And who would like to hazard a guess as to why Joe doesn't particularly like this thing? I'll give you all a couple of seconds. Is it because it's copy paste? No, otherwise I won't like the zero, would I? Is it because it's a T-26? No, I quite like the T-26. No, the answer is it's a completely wrong fucking model. This thing was not a 1939 tank. This T-26, number 531, you can look up on Google Images of this thing, was a 1935 turret. This thing has the 1939 turret. It's much different, and Gaijin still hasn't fixed it for so freaking long. And it annoys me. It honestly annoys me. And that's why I genuinely refuse to play the Chinese T-26s, and that includes the Tech Tree one, because the simple fact of the matter is, they're incorrect, and it pisses me off that they are just so freaking lazy. They've done that to, you never know. You might have had someone who served in the number five, or their dad or their granddad may have served in number 531. They come into the game and it's completely wrong. Like that to me is just wrong. But then again, that applies to a lot of vehicles in the game. So now that that's done, let's move on to Italy with the Showcase Part 1. And before we begin, I am going to briefly mention what's going to potentially come into the collection very soon. For tanks, I want to get the Solaris Sahariano. I don't know what the fuck that means. The Panzer IV-G is certainly interesting, but probably not on my priority list right now. For aircraft, I do want to get the 110 G4 and potentially the 109 G2, but this thing is very expensive, so I doubt I'll get that anytime soon. Starting us off, we have the Marcolin CR42CN. It's a Falco. If you know me, you know I love my Falcos, and it's a great little biplane. Always love these things, and that I don't think is changing anytime soon. It's a great little learner's aircraft. It's great for teaching boom and zoom tactics. And the sad part is, you just see people trying to turn fight I-15s in this thing, and it just doesn't have the capability. And for God's sake, one of these things shot down a P-38 in real life. Like, it's a great little biplane. You just do not see them very often. Well, flown by experienced pilots. Next up, you have a plane that you've already seen a review on, the RA2001 Gruppo 22. Arguably the worst, well, starter pack premium that there is. This thing is garbage. Whilst it does have decent performance, the fact that it melts itself the second you look at it funny is not good for a new player. Ugh, this thing just pisses me off because of how poorly done the starter pack was done. What it should have done is given newer players the IR81C and added in, well, in fact, given them the Solaris Ariano, that would have probably done them better. And as you're going to see, I have the tank that the starter pack comes with because I bought the starter pack, it was like £2, and even that's not great. Moving on to the IR81C, speaking of it, this thing is a great little plane. It's got great capability. It's actually got a buff recently. The elevators respond a lot better at higher speed. And what can I say? If you need a rank 2 Italian premium, this is the one I'd go with. Next, we have the RO57 Quadriarma. This is a plane that took me a little while to work the guns because they have a spano, because this is actually, Well, this is the prototype of the Area 57. So instead of having an MG151, it has Hispano 404 from captured D520s, and it's a good plane. But I'd really love to see one with 151 personally. That's what would really make this thing a bit more useful to me, is if it had 151 and not 404. But that's just me. Next up, we have another plane you'll be seeing a review on, or should have seen a review on by now. We have the HS-129B2 Romanian Duck. This is definitely a plane that, whilst I did do a review of it, it was certainly one that I tried to keep in ground pounding, but as you saw that match in the review, or you will see in that match for the review, it depends on whenever I release it, this is definitely one that certainly is very fun. But the second you meet someone who actually has more than two brain cells to rub together, it kind of loses its touch and kind of loses the fun factor. Next, we have a Rank 3 premium that's been really kicked in the bollocks. We have the Spitfire Mark 5 Trop, aka the Pacifier. It's kind of sad, really, because the Hispano nerf has really affected this thing. With only 120 rounds, and if the guns don't work full stop, it kind of sucks. And yeah, even on my ping, the Hispano is not doing particularly great right now. And it's really sad to see, because this is arguably the cheapest and the best Rank 3 premium because of that. And it's just sad to see. It really is. Next up, we move on to the tanks of Italy. And we're starting off with the M1340 Series 2. I got this tank free when the Italian tanks actually came out. This was actually not long after I started doing YouTube videos, actually. I think I got this thing like a week after I started. And I ended up leaving it for so long to actually review it, which was kind of a mistake, because I should have really reviewed this thing when it first came out. But this is certainly a good tank. I really enjoy the M1340s. They combine well, decent turret armor. I mean, especially when you get this thing hull down. Overall, good hull armor for the tier, and a decent gun, as well as 10 degrees of gun depression. And the fact that you can hide this thing as a Series 1, and then people think you'll have a 7-second reload, when in actuality you have a 3. It's perfectly good for trolling. I do like taking this thing out, but I rarely play it now because I don't really have a point. Then we come to this thing, the M14 41 47/40. Why? Just why? Why is this a premium a new player should have? You should have given them the Solaris Sariano, because at least that thing has mobility and the same gun, and arguably better frontal armor. This thing just gets massively kicked in the balls, especially by power creep, because the armor is as flat as a witch's tit. The turret armor, whilst it is still good, because it is still a M1340's turret, isn't standing up to anything 3.3 worthy. And the gun increase that you get, this is the longer barreled 47mm for anyone that's curious, it's really pointless, because you're going to be fighting Matildas and you cannot pen them at all. You can't pen a Matilda. Oh, and that 13.2 heavy machine gun in the hull that you can see to the right hand side of the vehicle might as well not be there. I've got exactly one kill with it. And yeah, it was a martyr that was facing me backwards. Not exactly much of an achievement when I could just shoot it in the face with the 47 or even the 8mm coax. Yeah, this is easily the worst starter pack, and I can't wait to review it because I want to rip this pack apart. Then we come to the last Italian tank I have, the M4 Hybrid. Definitely a tank that's still been kicked in the balls. And guess what? They've still not fixed the fucking turret armor, which is a real shame, because this thing still gets lol pen through the gun mantlet, because you only need 76mm of penetration to do it. And whilst the frontal hull armor is not much better, you still have some pretty sizable weak spots, and this thing is not a great tank. Like, it's certainly better than the other rank 2 premium at this BR, and obviously the Solaris Ariano. It's overpriced for what it brings to the table, and it's just not a great tank. But oh well. But I hope you enjoyed today's video on China and Italy. Next and finally is going to be France and Sweden. But anyway, I'll see you all on the next one.